Hello, everyone. Welcome back or welcome for the first time to the Essentials. Oh my goodness. Yesterday we had a jam-packed day. Today is also the same. If you were here yesterday, then you already know the drill. Drop in your location in the chat. And when you in your chat, you can do host and panelist or to everyone, whichever you prefer. And I think I see some familiar names as well. So thanks for tuning in yesterday. If you were here yesterday, let us know what you learned, share some takeaways. And yeah, we're gonna get started in just a second.
We don't have elevator music, but we can create it.
I have music.
Yeah, I think that's Wheel of Fortune.
Oh.
All right, Chicago, Vienna, Montreal, USA. Yes, if you are here, you know that the link is a different one. So I guess, Munis, now you're good. You're good. You're here. We're so happy you are. Ireland, Northern California, Belgium, Kenya.
Yes, Kenya in the house.
Wow, 2 people from Northern California. Very specific. Yeah. Adriana and Beatrice, both from Northern California. Yemen, wow, cool.
Madrid, wow.
Spain.
And Mohammed, you said you're in Saudi right now, right?
Yes, I am actually doing an artist residency here in Saudi Arabia, especially in Al Ula.
Awesome.
I'm gonna be here for the next 3 months.
Awesome. Hope you and Tasneem will have some time to hang out.
I would love to do that. Last time I was in Riyadh, she wasn't there. Every time I want to see her, she's not here, unfortunately.
No excuses.
So
you're there 3 months.
Yeah, she has to wait for me in Riyadh.
Oh no, sorry, Munis. Rebecca, are we? Yeah. Well, tech issues.
Thanks for sharing your takeaways, Vanessa. If you missed yesterday's sessions, don't worry. All of them were recorded and they'll be available in Spanish and French soon after this. And these will also be recorded.
Yeah, so I think we can just give it maybe 1 more minute, Polly, and then get started.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Keep those locations coming. It's always so cool to see what a global audience and community we're all building together.
Absolutely.
So here for it. Yes, Munis. Ditto. Yeah, we had a lot of awesome things happen yesterday. We've got more amazing things going for today. I think a few more people have joined, so I guess we can jump in. That might have been 30 seconds, but let's just do it. Right, Polly?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. So yeah, take it away, Polly.
All right, y'all. So again, we're at the Essentials. This is our first time doing it in a weekend format. Our last 2 seasons, we did it as a month-long series, once every week. So I think this format or the other one works. Like, this has been really cool to do it in this way, and you all have been showing up and asking great questions. And again, this is being recorded, so don't worry. You don't have to write the notes, although you want to write notes, you can. But feel free to share takeaways on social and tag all the organizations and of course our sponsor photo links.
Yes. So Polly, you did a great job at just hitting all the points, but I'm just gonna bore all of you. I'm sorry for those who were here for every class yesterday in the beginning and the end. You know the drill. We graciously need to just talk about ourselves for a little bit. So if you didn't know, if you're joining us newly today, the Essentials are free online classes. This is not the first time that we've done this, as Polly mentioned. all about navigating the photojournalism industry, made in partnership with these grassroots photo organizations working toward inclusivity, equity, and access in the media. So we are the Everyday Projects, Black Women Photographers, and Photo Wings. The Everyday Projects is a global community of visual storytellers, all committed to using imagery to combat harmful misperceptions and to rise above persistent inequality. The Everyday Projects is a nonprofit, and we work really hard to provide opportunities for our global community, which we've seen here. It is truly global, and to provide structure, support, and direction for the diverse and worldwide range of everyday photography groups. I think for the next Essentials, we just need to have like a little commercial, you know, that we can play, like with like pretty music and visuals. I think people probably get sick of hearing this, Polly. All right, let's go on though. Polly, I'm so happy to be here with you on day 2. Polly Rungu, the one, the only, the amazing founder of Black Women Photographers.
Yeah, it's truly an honor to be here with you all as well. As she mentioned, I'm the founder of Black Women Photographers, a global community organization I started in July of 2020. We just celebrated 2 years, and so it's been amazing. And I saw some people say they were from Los Angeles, California. We just had an exhibition opening reception yesterday in LA. So if you're there, head to the Perfect Exposure Gallery and check out the works of 21 Black Women Photographers members showcasing the Black experience. So yeah, thank you, Danielle. And of course, you know, Danielle mentioned this, I mentioned this a lot, and we'll keep mentioning this because it's so rare to find free resources these days, and especially with all this knowledge, especially from the speakers we've been having, who are the best and the best in their game, and this couldn't be possible without Photo Wings. So if you don't know what Photo Wings is, it's a nonprofit organization dedicated to utilizing the power of photography to further deep thinking, communication, and action. Their extensive online content and Photo Wings outreach programs have mirrored educational applications and possibilities. So thanks to them for making sure we can continue to provide these free resources.
Yes. Once again, my name is Danielle Villasana. I'm co-host of The Essentials and also a community team member of the Everyday Projects and an independent photojournalist with a passion for community development and education. So The Essentials is totally like what I'm here for. You can see some of my colleagues' names here too, who are helping with behind the scenes stuff. Thank you massively to Rebecca Gideon, Washira Njogi, and Austin Merrill, who along with Peter DeCampo are the co-founders of the Everyday Projects. Austin's in the audience, Washira too, what's up? And I just want to emphasize again the amazing work that Polly is doing, elevating the voices of Black creatives around the world. So please, if possible, consider making a donation to BWP. Everything counts to support their amazing initiatives and operations like the exhibit and all that good stuff that Polly just mentioned. Polly, back to you.
Yes, so yesterday we heard from Charisse on ethics. I saw some folks drop that in their takeaways. That was powerful. Annie, who told us, listen, y'all, there's things that we could be getting paid for. And then also Hannah, who really just gave us a beautiful masterclass of her work and how she pitches with intention and purpose to respectful, outlets. Some that you probably heard of, like National Geographic, New York Times, and many others. So thank you to those 3. And today we have the rest of the amazing lineup. And so I'm so excited for them to share their knowledge and expertise with us.
Yeah, so as Polly mentioned, just one more time, classes are recorded. They're available online on these websites. Follow us on social. Pay attention to future cool things that we're going to be doing. And as Polly mentioned, Photo Wings also has a tremendously large archive of great videos on all facets of photography. So please make sure to check those out too. And without further ado, let's get started and have our amazing first speaker kicking off the day, Mohammed Kilito. So happy that you're able to join us. He is one of the most empathetic, community-minded, and supremely talented photographers in the industry. Truly, when we were thinking of someone to teach this class, it just really made sense that Mohammed be that person, because he's just so generous and just so giving and loving and supportive. Like when you're browsing, on social media and you see people, he is always there. Congratulations, well done. So he really embodies that ethos of community and support and helping each other sort of navigate this at times very complicated, confusing, and what can sometimes feel very lonely industry. But Mohammed is just the opposite of sort of the lone wolf, right? Which we're trying to work against, supporting one another. So he is the person to talk about navigating the industry. But for the formal bio, for those of you who may not know him already, he is a freelance documentary photographer based in Rabat, Morocco, but right now doing no big deal, a fellowship in Saudi. His work focuses on capturing narratives that help understand the relationship between groups or individuals and their environments by covering issues related to cultural identity, the sociology of work, and climate change. Currently, Mohammed is completing the 2-year 7 mentor program, and his latest project, Before It's Gone, which everyone should check out for sure, In Depth, has been shortlisted for the Leica Oscar Barnack Award and won the first prize at the Crunch Photo Festival. Honestly, we had to shorten the bio. There was just like, I was like, what have you not accomplished, Mom? It's like, there's just goes on for pages. And of course, he is a member of Everyday Middle East and Everyday Africa. So we're so happy to have you here again with us, Mohammed. Thank you so much for sharing your time. And I'm going to stop the share so you can take it away.
Thank you so much, Danielle and Polly, for inviting me for this presentation. I'm super excited to share with you how to navigate and what are the key actions to be a successful photographer. So let me share with you my screen. 1 second. Screen.
And while Mohammed gets that going, just remember we have a long section for Q&A. So drop your questions in the Q&A box. Do not be shy. This is a safe space. So please, now is your chance to ask any question that might be on your mind. So cool. Thank you, Mohammed.
Are you able to see the screen? Excellent. So thank you very much once again. I'm gonna start actually by showing you a couple of projects I have been working on during the last few years, and then we're gonna jump on the specificities and how we can navigate the industry with success. So the first project I'm gonna be showing you is called Among You. This is a project that was produced with the Arab Documentary Photography Program. It's a joint program with Magnum Foundation, Prince Claus Fund, and AFAQ. So the idea of the project came when I stumbled upon a report made by the Social, Economical, and Environmental Research Center, in Morocco. And I realized that the statistics they were sharing in the report showed some really dramatic numbers about Moroccan youth. And I decided to discover who are the Moroccan youth today, what are their frustrations, their dreams, their realities. And the first chapter of the project was concentrated on the personal identity. So basically, there are a couple of young folks from Morocco in different urban environments. And through their personal identities, through their appearances, through their creative processes, they somehow confront the conservative traditional norms of Moroccan society. And I started the project because I thought it was very interesting to show these characters, because a lot of people, when they see the images, they ask me all the time if they are Moroccans. And basically these young people, as all the youngsters today around the world, they have access to internet, they see how other people live in other areas, and they learn and they express themselves more freely than they used to do before. When I finished this project, I decided to continue another chapters about Moroccan rural youth. So I applied for an Explorer grant to National Geographic and was able to focus again on youth, but this time more in the rural areas where there are more marginalized, more isolated. And I work specifically also on how many of them drop school very early. They live in environments where there are no hospitals, no roads, no electricity sometimes. So it's really a harsh reality. And the last project, and it is the latest project I have been working on, is called Before It's Gone. And Before It's Gone tackles the effect of climate change on oases and how it affects also the inhabitants of the oasis. So Morocco has lost the two-thirds of its oasis during the last century. And we are facing the hardest droughts during the last 40 years. So I decided to go to the oasis. I spent the last 3 years traveling in different oases. I have seen almost like 20 or 25 oases. And I started to document the life of the people there, how they are affected about the climate change. And basically what happened is that the droughts kills the palm trees in the edges of the oasis. Desertification goes in the oasis. People don't have enough water to continue their agricultural practices. They migrate to urban areas, and all these problems are interrelated. There is also a lot of fires that are recurrent because the vegetation is very dry, and if you and it catches the fire really quickly. I also witnessed a lot of environmental refugees. They basically dig wells of 10 meters, and once they have no water, they don't have the money to dig more profound, and they just like decide to leave, and they start having another life in another environment, mainly in big cities. This is currently a project that I really struggled with to get grants. So during the first 2 years, I was applying all the time, and it was very frustrating. Until lately, I started getting a little bit of recognition with the project, and I decided that through a comparative approach, I will work on different oases in the MENA and WANA region, because I would like to compare and understand how different oases deal with this kind of problems, and also how to learn the best practices. Grants and prizes. Why is it important to apply on grants and prizes? I think it is important to apply for grants and prizes because the grants, through the fundings you get, enables you somehow to have more comfort and ease in order to produce and concentrate on your projects. It's also important because it's bringing you confidence. You are recognized by peers and actors in the industry, and you get your work seen by many people that follow those prizes and grants. So this is crucial for documentary photographers and photojournalists to really apply and do it in the right way. I think one of the key things you have to start with is do your homework by exploring and making lists of grants and prizes that are specific to photojournalism and documentary photography. It is also crucial to understand what kind of works won in the previous grants and prizes. I think applying is very time consuming, so you have to be effective and not apply all the time to all the grants and prizes, but see the grants and prizes that fit the most with the work you are applying with. You also need to find someone who can proofread your writings if you're not very comfortable with doing it. And as photographers, we are not supposed to be really good writers. Some are, some don't. So I think it is important once in a while to have a couple of friends around you, or maybe like curators or editors that can help you with the writing. It is also important to have maybe 2 or 3 people who can help you edit your photographs. Sometimes while working on your photographs for a long time, you don't have the distance anymore to see what works, what doesn't work, what's good, what is not good. And by suggesting to 2 or 3 photographers or editors or curators to help you with the editing, maybe you can discover some sequencing that you haven't thought about and develop a better visual narratives. I think also I do actually, I always set a budget here so I can apply for grants. I usually set a $200 budget, and I apply for different grants and prices. I make a list in my calendar so that I'm sure that I will not forget about them. Workshops and portfolio reviews. I think workshops is really a key thing we have to do as photographers. The workshops enable us to improve our skills, and as photographers, we have to be humble. Even if we are good, we always have space to learn different things, to meet different photographers that work in different ways. And I have been focusing a lot on doing workshops. And here we can see on the right a photograph of the Eddie Adams workshops. And actually, Tasneem As-Sultan, when I met her a couple of years in Beirut, she told me about the Eddie Adams workshop that I didn't knew about. And I applied, and it was one of the most wonderful experience I have had as a photographer. So I really tell you that you should apply as much as you can to workshops. The portfolios reviews are important also. They let people know about your projects, and it's okay also not to win, because once in a while the portfolio reviews have winners. Sometimes I apply even if the project is not complete. I just want to meet other editors, other photographers, other directors of festivals, because maybe they're gonna see the work now and they're gonna give you insights, they're gonna learn other things and how to continue the project. But the most important thing is that maybe, and I know through some contacts I have with editors and photographers and directors of festival, that they hand a lot of projects through the portfolio reviews. So this is something really important. And if it doesn't at the moment give you anything, maybe in 1 year or 6 months, they will contact you because your story fits in a publication they will like to have, or maybe an exhibition they would like to have. And both of them, workshops and portfolio reviews, are important to build your network. Reaching out to editors. This is a tricky thing we have to do all the time. So we write to editors. Everyone is complaining because editors don't answer back to us. This is something that I have done for many years. And I ask this question all the time. I have the chance to talk to editors. So basically, they answer me that they receive almost hundreds of emails every day from many photographers that are pitching different projects. And I think it is important to make sure that your project stand out more than the others. And how to do it? It's very simple. You have, first of all, to make sure that your project fits perfectly with the editorial line of the magazine. So you have to do your research, look at the magazines, see what kind of work they're interested in, what stories they publish. And then you make a selection of different magazines worldwide that could be interested in your project. The second thing is to be also aware of the fact that editors work in different departments. They work in international, they work in climate, they work in national politics. So this is also something you have to look about before sending your emails. It's to make sure that the project you are sending fits exactly with the editors that you are trying to correspond with. You also need to write very simple, concise emails with a title of 2-3 words that gives a clear idea about what project are you sending. And then the most important thing is you don't send 150 images, you don't send like long text. You have to make sure that you send a small PDF of 3 pages maximum with images and a description of your work. Creating a community. And this is something we come back again and again and again. It's very important to build a community. This is something a lot of photographers don't talk about. We always think that being a photographer is a solitary practice. It is, of course, but to succeed as a photographer, you have also to create a community. And there are so many communities that are very successful, that offer grants, workshops, and I have been focusing also on this aspect when I started photography and was developing my long-term strategy. So a community enables you to share your work, to talk about photo books, to share your achievement and frustration. And you can be really surprised about how much you learn and how comforting is it to be surrounded by photographers that can understand the panoply of emotion we go through as photographers. I have also had the chance to be helped by many of these communities. I work with 7 Foundation and 7 Agency, Everyday Projects. And the last project I shared with you before it's gone, that is dedicated to the effect of climate change on Oasis. The idea of working on the project came because I have been exchanging with Nicole Sobeki. She is part of Everyday Africa. And we were exchanging, and she really pushed me to work on this project. And she has been mentoring me since the beginning of the project until the end. And Danielle Villasana also, I contacted her I was applying for Leica Oscar Barnack award. I contacted her at the last minute, asking her if she can proofread my text, and she did it in a day. So I mean, like, all these people that work with us enable us somehow to make our project stronger. And it is important to have the community to also everyday projects. I had the chance to do some print sales with Wasira. We also worked on some exhibition, WordPress photo. So the more connected you are with different communities and different collectives and different institutions, the more you have access to different opportunities. So this is something you really, really have to focus on. I thank you very much for your attention, and I'm ready to get your questions.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. There are some questions in the Q&A box. Please keep them coming, and we'll get to all of them as best as possible. First question, you mentioned, a PDF of your works. You also mentioned a website of your works. If you don't have, a portfolio website in the traditional sense, how did you go about with the PDF? Did you find that that was okay to use in replace of a website for various reasons? Maybe somebody can't afford to have a website or whatever the case may be. How did you actually create that body of work for people to review, for the portfolio review sessions, for you to apply to different grants and opportunities?
Yeah, so I really believe that having a website is something that we don't even think about today. As a photographer, you need to have a website, you need to have an Instagram. When you talk to editors, they tell you that the first reflex they have is to go to your Instagram, look quickly on your photographs, and then they go to your website, because they check not only the projects and the stories you have been working on, but they also to check your biography, your resume, to see who are the collectors, what kind of grants you received, prizes, recognition. So this is something for me as a photographer, the first thing you try to do is to have a website and be present through social media. Then the portfolio is something also you get to learn while doing portfolio reviews or while doing workshops. It's very basic. You need to have a description of project, you need to have a resume, you need to have a biography, and then you can set your project in different ways, through stories, mainly through stories when you are working as a photojournalist or a documentary photographer. But what I try to say when I was doing the presentation is that many photographers send huge PDF files. They send also hundreds of images, and the editors that are super busy, they select the email they receive. And if they see that the photographers didn't have the common sense of thinking that the editor doesn't have time to surf through all this content that photographer sent, then he will just ignore it. And he will go through the people that write very simple, concise emails. The titles are very clear, and the document or the PDF that he sent is also very small and very clear in explaining what project is the photographers proposing as a pitch.
Thank you so much. In addition to that, there was another question about, the PDF format. How, when you format that, I don't know if you have an example you could share, but how many works do you include on each page? Since you said 3 max is ideal.
Yeah, basically what I do, I try to put different images in one page, because in 3 pages you can't put much. So I put a small biography, a small description of project, maybe on one page. It has to be also like a small resume, and then I put different images on the PDF. So doing a portfolio, I can tell you that I had probably like 5 or 10 different portfolios. Also, the portfolio changed depending on the grants and the prizes that I sent to. So I feel that maybe this is why I said also that it's important to look at the project that won the prizes and the grants previously in the previous years. So you have this institution or festival or curricular program or community is interested in. So I adapt. Usually for the same story, I can have maybe different edits, like 3 or 4 edits. So I keep adapting all the time. And you have to be smart in doing that. So if you send in a project to the New York Times or Geo Magazine or Le Monde, you're not going to be sending the same images. So you always adapt the text. You always adapt everything you have so that you sell your project in the best possible way, depending on the interests of the prize, the grant, the competition, the magazine, the journal you send into.
And then there's another follow-up about you sharing projects, to these different publications you mentioned and pitching it, or when you're applying it to a grant. How do you strike the balance of sharing enough information but not too much information?
Yeah, that's a difficult question because I don't know. I usually don't know if I'm saying enough information or too much information or not as much. But this is something you start building up while doing it the first time, the second time. You meet 2 editors. You ask them, this is the right way to do it. They tell you this is how I work. Then you speak to another editor. He works in a different way. So you really keep trying different ways and see what works and what doesn't work. And I mean, like, it's saying that it's easy for many of us to get grants, but I'm sure that there is grant that I applied to for 3 times, 4 times. We get more rejection than we get accepted for the grants. So I mean, like, by failure, this is the best way to learn. When you fail, you ask yourself, why didn't I get this grant this time? Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Then you ask your colleagues, then you ask maybe an editor, then you ask a creator. They tell you, okay, so you have to improve this thing. You have to do it this way. And you keep learning little by little. And the thing that we have to also accept is that maybe I spend 60 or 70% of my time applying for grants and pitching. And I used to take it very personally at the beginning, but then I understood that it's part of the game. So now when I have refusal, I'm like, it's okay, it didn't work this time. I don't know why, maybe it's not the right project, maybe. And things come up all the time. And also at the beginning, when I was pitching and also sending for grants and prizes, I realized at a certain time, and this is something that I assume is very important, because a lot of photographers I meet apply and spend a lot of time and energy in applying. But the problem is that maybe the project with which they're applying is not strong enough. They think it's good, they believe it's good, maybe their mom, their brother, a friend tell them this is a good project. But then this is why it's interesting to do the portfolio reviews, is to make sure that the project is good, that you have an original perspective of treating the project, that you're bringing something fresh and new to all the images we are exposed to in our everyday life. And then when you're sure that the project is strong enough to send it to competitions, then you start getting results. And this is something that is very, very, very important, because I really have so many friends that are photographers that have weak projects, and they keep trying and trying and trying, and they don't have the results, and they don't understand why. And why is simple. It's because they have to work more, they have to give the project more time, they have to think more, they have to do more portfolios, they have to do more workshops to allow themselves to have more skills and allow themselves also to have great projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love how it's so important, this like concept of rejection, because we all feel it. We all have had those moments where You know, we just feel like, what am I doing with my life? I'm the worst photographer in the entire universe. I should just stop what I'm doing. I mean, I think anybody who is working in photography has probably felt that. In fact, it's come up a lot in previous classes, even though it's not necessarily the topic. And I think it's because it is something that we all feel. This is a personal practice, and it's, you know, it's in our heart. And so it can feel like you're being rejected. So I love what you say about, you know, not taking it personally, but to kind of build on that a little bit more, some folks are kind of asking similar questions, such as, you know, when should you start thinking that maybe your work is just bad? How do you find the balance between getting opinions on an edit and trusting your vision? And then also, how do you build a thick skin? Because there is this sort of fine balance between, no, I believe in this project, maybe it's just not. Anyways, what do you think, Mohammed? I'd love to hear how you do that. How you
I have an example. The project Among You that I did through the Arab Documentary Photography program. It's a project that at the beginning a lot of people didn't like, especially the mentors I was working with, and I felt very frustrated because for me it was like a great opportunity to do a project, to meet these people that work with Magnum, with your agency. And many of them didn't like the project, and I understand. I accepted it, and I thought it was a very bad project. I will not share it. I will not apply with it for grants. And then right after that, I did the Eddie Adams workshop, and I remember my first portfolio review was with Carol Goudzi, and she loved the project. She told me, "Wow, that's an amazing project. It's this young people from Morocco, and I love the text, and I love how to work with the diptychs." And then many people really liked the project. And then I was like, okay, then something is wrong. So maybe sometimes you're not showing the work to the right niche of photography, because this project was done in let's say, classical documentary spirit. And I took it to a direction that was more editorial, because when I went to photograph this youth, they already had an image they wanted to share with the people. They knew how to pose it, and I love to work with it. And then I came back from the Eddie Adams workshop, really it's good. And then I started work. Sometimes also before it's gone, with this a couple of times, I had maybe 5 or 6 pictures that were good, but it wasn't enough. So I was sending and applying, and it wasn't working at all. And then I was like, okay, something is wrong with what I'm applying with. So maybe I should go back on the field and photograph more, and have a stronger selection of photographs. So this is what I done. I was doing a residency in Paris when I was shortlisted nominated for the Leica Oscar Barnack. And before applying, I can't apply with what I have. It's weak. So I stopped the residency, went back to Morocco, spent 1 month photographing, worked with a couple of friends, photographers, to do an edit, worked on the text with you, Daniel, and I sent the project, and it was accepted. And I was sending many applications before, and none was accepted because the project was weak. So I just feel that sometimes you have to be honest and sincere with yourself, because sometimes those things we know, but we don't want to see them. And this is why you have to be surrounded by a community of people from the industry that can tell you the things that can be hard sometimes to tell, or you can't accept from everyone else, but people that you trust, and people that know your work, and people that were following your improvements during the years. Those people can tell you the right things, and can tell you how you can make this project that is not working today become a successful project that is an award-winning project.
Yeah, I love that all of you who are, you know, at these, you know, incredible places in your career are really dispelling and demystifying this concept of like, oh, you just somehow get to this point magically, but there's so much work, so many tears, so much like rejection that goes into that. So I just love that all of you are being, you know, so honest and open about that, because I mean, yeah, I think for most of us, we had to, you know, try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, right? With tears. So thank you for being so honest about that. We have a few questions kind of centered around like pitching an editor. So I'm going to kind of just switch gears a little bit from the grants contest thing. But how do you, for example, you know, stay persistent? You know, how often, okay, 2 questions. How often do you contact the same editor about a project? And how do you find that balance between being persistent versus annoying? And that can also kind of be applied to, I guess, contests that maybe you apply to again and again and again. How do you, make, well, you kind of touched on it, how you make your work a little bit different, but yeah, that like persistent versus like annoying, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I work more on long-term projects, so it takes me time to work on a project, and then when I have a project, I pitch it to different magazines. But I mean something that is important, and I explained it several times during the presentation, is that when you do the workshop, when you do the portfolio reviews, you meet photo editors. They know you. You talk to them. You establish contact with them. You have their emails, and when you send an email, you're not just another photographer. You are the photographer that he met during the portfolio reviews in Germany or in Amsterdam or in France or in New York, and he knows you, he knows the projects, he knows what you're working on. So the contacts, and when they say your name in the email, they answer it, they answer to you. The other thing is that I don't pitch much projects. I get more editors that contact me to produce specific works in Morocco. I never pitched actually. I never pitched. I just have like people that see and follow my work, contacting me and telling me, listen, we are interested in publishing this or this work. And also, when I started doing photography at the beginnings, I thought about a strategy. How can I survive as a photographer? Because financially, it's hectic for all of us. So you have to be smart enough to find a business model that enables you to sustain as an artist, as a photographer. So I worked on three main axes. The first one was to get grants and prizes and have enough funding to be comfortable and concentrate on producing long-term projects. The second one is working with galleries. So I work with galleries that represent me and sell my work. And the third one is doing assignments for magazine. So I have friends that are specifically concentrating in pitching and getting their work published in journals and magazines. I am not this kind of photographer, but what you have to do is work hard on a story, be offering an angle that is different from what we have seen, and try to be as precise and concise about the text you're sending and the images you're sharing with the editor. So there is no right formula how to do it, but you have to propose, not all the time when you have an idea, you're in a bar, you have a drink, you have an idea, then you go and you send to an editor. You have to think really about it. You have to do your research and propose something that is that could that in. So for me, the most important thing is to concentrate on offering mind-blowing projects and also stories that have not been told the way you are doing it, and explain why you are the right person to do the story, why it is important to tell the story now, what are you offering that other photographers are not offering. And this is determinant to make the editors decide to work with you and not to work with others.
You mentioned in the beginning some of the, great grants and workshops that you've attended. Like I just dropped the link for the Eddie Adams workshop. What are, can you explain more about how it's made an impact on your career and others that have as well, as one person asked? And then also, at what point do you, do you decide, okay, like, how do you even like have the time or the bandwidth or the budgets to like actually like participate in all of these things? And how do you stay organized with all the different application deadlines? As you mentioned, there's so many, it's so easy to miss. How do you stay organized when looking for these things and applying to them?
Yeah, basically what I do, I make a list. It's very easy. You go on the internet, you type festivals, grants, funding, prices, and you find like tons of lists. So you start taking one by one, checking the dates, putting them in your calendars with the links. This is what I do. On my Google Calendar, I have each month a couple of prizes and grants, and I set time to work on them like 2 or 3 days before I have to send the application. As I said, it's very, very hard to do that because it's very, very time consuming. You spend a lot of time in front of your computer, doing the research, trying to make sure that your application is as good as it's supposed to be, because there is a lot of competition. You're competing with the photographers from all over the world, and sometimes I'm not able to apply at the deadline because I'm not ready. So, for example, last week I was supposed to apply for a National Geographic grant, and I had a festival in Jordan. Then I came to this residency, and we have this introduction week with a crazy program, doing guided tours, and I needed experts and scientifics here, and I knew that I wasn't able to work on it. So I tried to work with someone. I looked for a researcher that could do a research for me. It didn't work well, and I tried to do it myself, but it was too much. And then I decided that I will not apply 3 days before the deadline because it wasn't well done. So for me, if I'm sure that that I have a project that is really convincing, I will apply with it. If not, I will just forget about it. How to get organized? I think today, if you're not disciplined, it's a key. It's discipline. I think today, as photographers, it's with the tools we have, with the digital cameras, everyone can make good photographs. But then the discipline of taking your camera and going all the time, photographing, and taking out the photographs that are not as strong as the others and putting like more content that make the story stronger is definitely a key action to do. And what was your other question, please?
And then can you share more about like the Eddie Adams workshop or any other workshop that was really impactful to your career, and how?
There were many workshops, but not only workshops. So Eddie Adams workshop really was a mind-blowing experience. This is what I realized, that maybe the biggest concentration of the industry is in New York. So you end up like meeting people from Bloomberg, from National Geographic, from Open Society Foundation, New York Times, Washington Post, Smithsonian, and you have all these amazing photographers that are award-winning, and you have this presentation. You're part of a team. You meet photographers from different parts of the world. You attend presentation, and for me, it was, for example, I met an editor there, Olivier Laurent. He was my team leader, and after we finished Eddie Adams workshop, he told me, if there is project that will be happening in Morocco, I will contact you because I really like how we work, and we have collaborated on 5 different projects since then. So this is something that you get from this kind of workshops. Then I had also the chance to attend a festival called Addis Photo Festival in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and we had also different workshops. We meet people from National Geographic, from different magazines, and we had the chance also to meet with the other photographers from the Global South, because the realities of photographers in Global South are completely different from the photographers that live in the Western world. We don't have all these magazines and these accesses you guys can have in the Western world, and then we have to put maybe twice or 3 times more work in order to have the chance to meet with key actors in the photographic industry. So what else can I talk about? Yeah, for example, also I do something. I was talking about making a budget for grants and prizes, and I make like a 200 budget for that. But I also make a budget for visits and festivals. So for the last 4 years, I was going to Les Rencontres de Arles. Les Rencontres de Arles is the most important festival in the world. So you go there to get inspired and see what are the trends in photography today, but also because you know that everyone from all over the world will be there during the opening week. So you go, you meet with editors, you talk. A lot of people make decisions about exhibitions during the Rencontres d'Arles. So I mean, like there is an investment of time, energy, and money in order to give your chance and opportunities to meet people that can help you to have more chances and opportunities to show your work.
Yeah, I think you've touched on something really key in your response about the global South versus, the United States or Europe, places, where perhaps, on the list of passports, it's a bit stronger. So as someone, you're from Morocco and you talked just now about, the industry being, a lot of times based in New York, Paris, London. How do you navigate, traveling to these different places? Have you struggled with, like, not to get too personal with you, Mohammed, but have you, struggled with like visas or anything like that? Because as as we all know, there's so many people tuning in from all over the world. We've heard, people getting accepted to Eddie Adams or X workshop, but they weren't able to travel because of visa issues. Have you ever had to deal with that? If so, how did you navigate that? Or maybe friends who dealt with that, and how did they navigate that? Any tips on that? Or
honestly, I don't have troubles to get visa because I'm also Canadian, so I have Canadian passport and I usually don't need a visa. But many of my friends, also photographers from my collective and other photographers in Morocco and in North Africa that I know, have all the time troubles. Like, they get accepted, they get invited to the residency, everything is covered, they're very well paid, and at the end they don't get the visas and they're not able to attend for this residencies or exhibitions. So this is a very sad situation that many people in the Western world are not very aware of, but a lot of people in Africa, for example, are having a lot of trouble to get the visas to do workshops and portfolio reviews and attend festivals. During Les Rencontres d'Art this year, two of my friends, the curators, they curated a beautiful exhibition, and one of them was not able to get his visa. So this is a real issue for many of us, and this is why also we are trying as photographers to start also image education workshops in Morocco, in Algeria, through our collectives, because we don't have photography schools. We don't have magazines and journals that pay you enough to show your work with them. So it is important also to understand that we are like, say, Moroccan photographer, an African photographer, but also we have to see ourselves as international photographers, because the opportunities are open for all of us, and we have to be conscious and do the work to be aware about all these opportunities that exist. And on the other hand, I feel that as photographers, we also start curating exhibitions. We start also teaching workshops, because no one is doing this in our countries. So we have somehow kind of a responsibility to also push and work with the newest generation of photographers.
Yeah, definitely. And you have touched on something else. When there is an issue and there is no solution, or there doesn't seem to be a solution, you can often be, or at least try to, be the solution to that problem. So you've talked a lot about, community development and creating opportunities, where there may not be many opportunities. So how do you do that? Where do you start? It's always the chicken or the egg, question in photojournalism. If I don't have a portfolio, how do I write an editor? So how do I write to an editor? So even with community development, if I'm just getting started and I don't know anyone, how do I meet people? How do I create these opportunities if, I'm just kind of getting started? So when you were starting off, just very specific tips, like, did you just follow a lot of people on Instagram and then hope that they followed you back? How did you do that? How did you build a community?
I did, actually. I followed many people on Instagram. No, actually, I started with the community in Morocco. So I used to live before in Canada, and then I decided to move back to Morocco. And when I moved back to Morocco, I had no clue, no idea about who are the people that work in the cultural and artistic scene. So the first thing I did, I started researching on the internet to meet with the curators, gallerists, journalists in culture, director of cinema, and I started building up little by little a community of people that work in the artistic scene. And through them, I started meeting other people. And then I started doing the same work to understand who are the key people I should be meeting and who they should know also my work. But at the same time, I was aware that if I don't have a good portfolio, if I don't work hard to have an interesting project to share with them, so these people will ignore me. So at the same time, I was meeting people, but also working hard on the project. So when I have the chance to talk to them and show them the work, they will take me more seriously than if I'm just show them something that is not very convincing. So this was the strategy. And also I focus also on applying. I applied to Native Agency, I was accepted. I applied to Everyday Africa, Everyday Middle East. I also got the chance to be part of the African photography journalism database, Diversify. So I tried really to be part of different communities, and this is how people start contacting you because they want to show you work somewhere, you have an exhibition, they tell you about a grant. And little by little, you start getting all the information you need to surf and navigate the industry in the best possible way.
Yeah, hearing you talk just now is like, yeah, just reminds me of like hustle, 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 hustle. Like there is no moment for rest in this industry. I mean, but we also need to work on creating self-care and rest as well as part of our practice. But yeah, it's a lot of hustling, which Tasneem and Josue will talk more about as well later on. I don't mean to take over the Q&A here. So Polly, please jump in if you see any questions in particular that are really calling out to you, because we've got about 15 more minutes for questions, but we've got a lot of questions still. So yeah, Polly, did you see any maybe that are pulling out to you? If not, I've got a couple here.
Yeah, there's a good question here. It's not a silly question, as the person said. It's not silly, but how much educational background did you have in photojournalism that matters? This person is a scientist, but very much interested in photography and storytelling. And so for those who may not have the traditional, go to school for photojournalism, what advice would you have for them?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, if you have a chance to go photojournalism school, that's always a good idea. But I see that the majority of photographers that work actually in the niche where I am, which is documentary photography, specialized in long-term projects, the majority of them, they are not photographic trained. They're usually people that study humanities, social sciences, political science. And my training is political science. I have a master's in political science. And I did the Ottawa School of Arts, which they had like a portfolio program of a year, but it's nothing serious. I mean, the skills you can learn them on tutorials on YouTube and by attending workshops. But for me, I tried at the beginning when I started photography. I didn't know much what I wanted to do as a photographer. So I tried street photography, I tried fashion, I tried how do you say it? I forgot the name. It's in French. Anyway, I tried different kind of photography, and suddenly I realized that what I was most interested in is to merge my interest in political science and sociology with photography. And my background as a political scientist enables me to find the story, to do the academic research, to write, and to structure my idea. I do it obviously not in English, I do it in French the majority of the time, and then I translate it to English, and I find people who can help me to translate to English. But I think so many photographers actually from different agencies, main agencies, are more trained in humanities than in photography. And then the skills is something you can learn, and this is my answer for the question.
That is so interesting. I'll just keep going with rapid fire questions. As you mentioned, rejection is a part of the game. All of us have been rejected, still getting rejected to the various, still getting rejections to the various, grants and things. And we don't really, this person asked, did you find it easier to win grants and prizes after winning the first one? They've applied to dozens over the years and they're still struggling to win their first one.
Yes, it's frustrating. I know how much it's personally hard to get. Like sometimes last week I got like 3 rejections, and I'm easy with that. I got used to getting rejected. So basically, what you do, you apply for probably like 20 a year. If you get 1, 2, 3, it's great. At the beginning, it was very hard. Honestly, at the beginning, I just like kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and it's not working. Like first year, second year, then you get something small, then you get an exhibition. So basically, the idea, and I'm going to be repeating myself again, is to make sure that if it doesn't work this time, it will probably work next year. But what is important is that when you start getting a grant, a prize, getting this recognition, and how peers from the industry of photography recognize you and your efforts, they look at what you have done before. So they say, this guy get Alexia Foundation grant. So if they trusted him, he might be good. So maybe you can give him an opportunity and work with him. So the more grants you get, the more prizes you get, the more exhibitions you get, the more visibility you have, the more chances you have to get more grants and prizes. And at the same time, the more application you make, the more experience you have, and the better your applications are. So it's a whole process. You just have to keep going. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to circle yourself with the people that can always give you critical, constructive comments.
Totally understand. I'm gonna share my screen real quick if everyone can see that okay. I'm on your site. It's beautiful. It's like, I think sometimes we just overcomplicate things, right? We think we need to have like a million photos. Like you just have that one striking image that speaks to it, your series that other, people can check out, the editors. You mentioned when you applied to these different opportunities, that most of them still, the first thing they do, they don't check their website, is they check your Instagram. And it's also like, very well, like you have this like a good balance of like your personal moments and your professional work. And somebody asked in a question in the Q&A box, how do you strike that balance? Do you think you need to have a separate Instagram, like because they like to they like to show themselves having fun? They said something about hot girl summer. How do you strike that balance of showing your personal life with your professional work, or do you keep it separate?
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt because Priyanka mentioned hot girl summer, but Mohammed is also sharing hot guy
isn't that like a hot boy summer photo?
So I think it's okay, y'all. Look at that photo. I want to be where you were.
You're more than welcome, both of you. Yeah, that's a good question. So if we go down on the feed of Instagram, it's okay. If we go down on the feed of Instagram, you're gonna realize that it was only professional. So this is fresh. This is new. I decided also that I wanted to share like the professional and the personal somehow. Not very personal, but just like now I'm traveling, I want to tell to the people where I am. So it doesn't get boring, and people also like live your life through social media. They know where you are, where you're traveling, the projects you're working on. And sometimes when you put images of yourself, you get more likes than when you put your work. So I'm trying to play with the algorithm.
I totally understand. Thank you for that question. So you also mentioned, back to the site portfolio, that you are bilingual. Do you have a site in English only, or do you also have a version for French and or whatever other languages you may be speaking? Do you find that easier, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I think the majority of the websites of photographers today are only in English. So we used to have this practice when we started doing websites, having websites in Arabic, in French, in Spanish, in English. But today, the reality is that everyone speaks English in all the parts of the world, and it's not necessary to spend energy in doing that. English, even like the French people read English. So just like do it in one language and don't spend a lot of time in translating because it would be very hard to do it.
And on the same lines, how do you navigate the different language barriers or cultural difference when photographing in different countries?
So for a long time, I was photographing in Morocco. So in Morocco, we speak Spanish, French, and Spanish, French, and Arabic. Sorry. So for us in Morocco, it's very easy to speak many languages. Basically, you learn French and Arabic at the same time. Then some, depending on the region where you live, because Morocco is the only country in Africa that was colonized by two imperial powers, by the Spaniards and the French. Depending on the region, you speak more French than Spanish or more Spanish than French. And then you learn English in school also. But very late, and depending if you're doing like private schools or public schools. So I did a public school. This is why my English is not as eloquent as it should be. But yeah, so my work was exclusive to Morocco. So I used to talk to people in Arabic all the time. And I had the chance to do a couple of residencies in Europe, in Switzerland, in Spain, in France, and I had no issues with the language because those languages of these countries are languages I speak. And currently with this project, I'm starting to work on the WANA region. So the idea is to continue exploring the oases and how they are affected by the climate change. And all the countries I'm going to be doing for the moment are Arabic-speaking countries. So honestly, with language, I have never faced issues for the moment.
Yeah, it's crazy how, or wild how, we keep going back to this, idea that in photojournalism, it's like, it's important to be, or at least be able to do lots of things, right? Like, I mean, even Rebecca and I recently were like, who knew that as a journalist, we'd also need to know like how to navigate Zoom tech, So it's like being interested in a lot of different things, different languages, if you're able, even if only, beginner level, I think, right? Just kind of being interested in a lot of different things because those things are going to come into play in your work. I think we have time for a couple more questions, but I wanted to ask you something that someone mentioned, but build on it a little bit more. And I think it'd be a good foundation to intro our next class with James Rodriguez. But so much of your work, that photo that Polly just shared on your website, the work you shared with us now, it's so poetic, so symbolic, so beautiful. So how do you, is there a process that you have where you can kind of cut through the surface level somehow? And then of course, people were also wondering, are you using an analog camera? How did you decide to use a Leica if that's what you're using? So a couple of like technical questions, but yeah, kind of interested in, do you use mind maps like Hannah was talking about? What's your process there, even though I know it's a little off topic, but.
Yeah, basically the start of the project, I find the concept that I'm interested in. And then little by little, I start doing my research. I just can't go on the field and photograph without having kind of a global idea about the theme I'm interested in. So this is a big part of the project. So it takes maybe like 6 months of research. I'm contacting experts. I'm contacting people that work in agriculture, that know well the oasis. I'm trying to look for fixers. But the main part is going through scientific articles and looking for books. And I really immerse myself for a couple of months to get as much information as I can. So when I am on the field, I can talk with the people and know a little bit where they live and what are the realities of frustration and how they feel with the authorities and things like that. The other part is to decide how, what is the visual identity or the photographic language I want to use for the project. So sometimes when I don't have enough funding, I decide to work with the digital cameras. When I have enough funding, the question I don't even ask myself. I go to analog because this is how I started photography. I like the surprises we get from it. I like the colors of the film. I like the grain. And I like also the process. And for me, it's important. And the process dictates also how the result of the photograph is. So I work with the Hasselblad 500 cm, a camera from 1972. I work with one lens, an 80 millimeter, which is an equivalent of 40 millimeter. And I put these challenges to myself. I want to work with only one lens, so I will not think, maybe if I change the lens, it will be better, or this or that. I just work. I get closer to things, I get further to things. Sometimes I don't have enough space behind me, so I'm not getting the frame I want. So I just deal with it. If I want to shoot landscapes, maybe the landscape doesn't fit in the 40 millimeter lens. So I will shoot a couple of images that make bigger images of the landscape. I try to find solutions. And working with a camera that is long, because it takes me almost 2 minutes to take a picture, I have to measure the lighting with my light meter. I have to set the tripod. I have to frame it. It's reverse. When you look when you turn it on the left, it turns on the right. When you turn it on the right, it turns on the left. So it takes you time. And sometimes I frame, and then I realize that I am not comfortable with the frame, and I don't take the picture. Sometimes I happen to take 2 images a day or 12. So it's a long process that enables me to think more than if I have like digital camera. I would be like shooting 2,000 images or 3,000 images a day. And because I started with analog, I don't photograph this way. Even with the digital camera, I take my time, I think, and I feel the work I'm doing. And because I'm using this camera, the Hasselblad, it's more contemplative, it's more minimalistic, it's more geometric, and I take my time to think my framing. So the results of the series I do are completely different because the tool I'm using dictates somehow the photographs I'm taking. For example, yesterday I went to this dates auction in Al Ula in Saudi Arabia, and they were like selling dates and screaming and everyone moving. I was in my Hasselblad trying to focus, and I wasn't able to. And then I realized that I should maybe go further and focus on big group of people and take the image. So I know that the Hasselblad doesn't enable me to take a lot of photographs that I could have taken with the digital fast camera. And these are decisions I make. I put challenges to myself. I decide on the camera. I decide how I want to show the work. And then I show the work to editors. They tell me, we like it. Some don't like it because they would like to have like wide angles images. It depends. You make your decision. You have to be convinced about what you're doing, and you try your best to do the best with the tools you have.
Amazing. Wow. We just like covered everything. Not we, you, Mohammed, you covered everything. And thanks to everyone's questions, we just really hit a lot of different topics within this very broad topic of navigating the industry. So thank you for so beautifully kind of unpacking that for all of us. Quick little homework for you, Mohammed, as Polly and I kind of wrap up this session. Can you please write in the chat box the camera that you use and the lens, because I think people are curious about that. So yeah, so again, thank you so much, Mohammed. Honestly, you are just so wonderful. And again, I hope if any of you remember anything from today, it's just, lead with kindness, lead with a pure heart, and you'll be shortlisted for the grant too, just like Mohammed. Yeah. So with that, I think Polly's gonna kind of go over a couple more housekeeping things for those of you who are newly joining, because we've just got a continuous flow through the day here. So thank you again, Mohammed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Polly, Tasneem, and Daniel. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you so much. As Daniel said, we have quite a few other sessions to get to. So next up, we'll be hearing from James Rodriguez talking about sustaining long-term projects. But we wanted to thank PhotoWings again for making the essentials happen. These are free classes with the best of the best in the industry, and we couldn't do that without them. The classes are being recorded and they'll be transcribed in French and Spanish after this as well. Again, thanks to PhotoWings for making this possible for this season. For those who might have joined a little bit later, PhotoWings' mission is to highlight and help facilitate the power of photography to influence the world. As a nonprofit, they help photographers.
So Yeah, I think for those, we're right on time. That was amazing. I can't believe how much amazing, like in-depth material Mohammed just covered, and somehow we're on time. So I don't know, it must be a second day thing.
I didn't do any talking today.
Yeah, right. We are shutting our mouth more. That's what's happening.
Gotta come for us, I know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, so for those of you who are joining who maybe weren't here, I'm like blushing. For those of you who weren't here for Mohammed's class, but for those of you who were and who were there yesterday, you know what's coming. Here we go again. We're doing the intro. We're talking about who we are, what the Essentials is, why we're all here, what is actually even happening. We don't know. Ta-da! All right, Polly. Kick it off for us. We're gonna have this memorized. I can do it like with my eyes closed.
Just start saying this in my sleep. The Essentials is. No, yeah, thank you all for those who have, stuck around from the first morning session or evening session, depending on your time zone. We're up next with James. And again, all of these are being recorded. We have a few more classes for today. We're not doing a meet and greet, but I see some folks are dropping in their Instagrams and gonna connect with each other offline, which is great. Yesterday's meet and greet was so much fun. So thank you all for those who stuck around for that as well. If you already, heard our drill, then it's totally fine. But for those who don't know, again, the Essentials is free classes made possible by different sponsors this session's sponsor is by Photo Wings. We try to make sure that for those who are emerging photographers or those who are seasoned photographers, you'll still be able to walk away with some new information that you may not have known when you participate in our Essential series.